Welcome back to another session. And as I end the week, I think it's important, and it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge that I have covered and introduced some topics that are slightly, you might say, controversial this week and perhaps heavy hitting with regards to the whole concept of understanding and overcoming depression. I share these not because I want to be too harsh, but simply because sometimes um, the treatment mechanism for one person might be very different to the other person. For some people, breakthrough occurs in an instant moment, and for some other people, it takes years and years and years. And what tends to happen for those that it takes such a long time is you almost need something to jolt you into position, just to push you. And we tend to find that sometimes the person keeps living a life that is not consistent with the best health. And all it requires is your doctor saying, listen, you'll be dead in 6 months or 3 months if you don't make changes. And that things have got very critical. And that gives them the wake up call. And so, therefore, into this week, I have been sharing different things. And obviously, I introduce, using the connotative power of language, um, things to jolt you into thinking about your life and recognizing that you're much stronger than this suffering you may have, especially if it's depression related, and to recognize that there's greatness within you, and that in life you must be willing to take a risk, otherwise you don't grow. And for most people, the absence of growth really pushes them down this spiral pathway towards depression, because you start to sense and feel yourself as being less than and not having any value, which is completely wrong in my perspective. I believe we are spiritual beings. At the core, the best part of who we are is a spirit, formless in nature, abundant in its capabilities, unlimited by potential, and it just is. Has no ending, has no beginning. This spirit is placed in a physical body we call a body. From dust it has come, to dust it will return, and it has a limited life. For some people it's 3 score years and 10, and for some other people even more. And that simply means that we have a timed period. And at the end, the body gives up the spirit. The spirit never dies. You don't die. I don't die. The spirit lives. The body expires. It goes back to it because it has a limited life, you might say, lifetime assigned to it. But spirit just is. But we've been given this intellect as a bridge between spirit and physical to enable us create any environment we wish and want, but also to enable us be different from animals, to have emotions, to feel things, to adjust, to make changes, to create any environment we want. And when you think about this possibility that I have outlined, assuming you were to grant my positions and my premises as true, why do we suffer? Now, animals do not say they are depressed. Animals do not feel depression. One of the reasons we have depression in our DNA and we experience it is because we have an intellect. And therefore, with the use of our intellect, we can create any feeling we want, any emotion, any environment, boundaries, and we can create limitations that are not imposed on us by the divine or from the universe, but are self-imposed. Depression is a curse that we give ourselves, a curse that we should never give other people. It comes from ignorance of who we really are at the core. As a matter of fact, just think about this. If you believe that this life had majority of suffering, but it was only going to be for 3 score years and 10, and then you had infinity of abundance, I suspect you would say, sign me up. 75 years of suffering every now and then, but nothing too overburdensome, and then I have bliss. Why would I be depressed? Because you would have a goal. You would have something beyond the suffering that draws you to it. It's part of the reason why the early disciples would go back to the master and say, can you tell us one more time about this place that you describe? You said we have how many mansions? And the master would have to paint the picture for them to say, my father's house. There are so many mansions. I wouldn't tell you if it were not true. And he gave encouragement to the disciples and to the students to say, listen, the suffering is not here to stay, it's come to pass. And therefore they had hope. Those who have depression lack hope. They are void of faith. But more importantly, they don't have a story beyond the physical. They do not believe that they cannot die, that they are spiritual beings. And therefore, by virtue of shunning the possibility that there's an aspect to them that is spiritual, they cannot express the fruits of the Spirit. You see, as the saying goes, to those with the fruits of the Spirit, there are no laws, because you are living in union and in happiness and in joyfulness and in a blissful state with everything around you. Most people suffer from depression because of a lack of hope, a lack of something beyond the now. And I will just encourage you as follows. There is value in believing in something. I would even encourage you, it's worse to believe in nothing than to believe in something, however wrong that something might be. Now you might be thinking that's idiotic. Yes, because we had ideologies that caused the Holocaust and different people being killed, and you had Mussolini, you had Mao, you had all these horrible ideas. Yes, and those people, the people who led such movements, were the ones who had the ideas. But interestingly, the other people who were part of the program, the rest of the population of the people lacked mostly an idea, and they were void, they were empty, and therefore they just absorbed the idea that other people threw in their direction. See, for example, as a matter of fact, let's use a good example. If someone came to me with a religion that was very different to what I believed in my core, I believe in the Christian ethics, and I think that decides and undergirds and provides a pillar of support for my life. I would entertain the opposite idea, because ideas should have sex and interact with themselves. So you can test your idea to see if it's really, really true. But because I have an idea, what you tend to find that it takes a while before my idea is displaced. I would need to be exposed to the other new idea long enough and to contend with the other new idea and mine before I come to the point of saying I will choose this one over that one, or I will let go of that one and embrace the other one. But if I had nothing, if I had no idea, then what you tend to find is that I just accept, either by association or osmosis or by subtle influence, I just accept what comes to me. Hence my reference that it's worse to have no faith, no belief in anything, than to have a belief in something. Reason being, it serves as a resistant barrier to bad ideas. And so for many people, as I end this week particularly, I have to suggest and I have to recommend that if you find yourself in a state of depression, one of the best gifts I can give you, or one of the best recommendations I can give you, is find people of faith. And I'm not defining what that faith has to be in, but find a group, a fellowship of people of like mind. It's part of the reason why people say, whatever you believe in, study, practice, teach. Now, Jim Rohn was the one who pioneered that concept. But the idea was simply to say there's something about belief. It's the force, it's the power that controls, that motivates, that influences, that undergirds everything we stand for in life. Find a place of faith, a community around you, whatever that community might be, and start to learn something new. In the process of learning, providing you're curious and open-minded, you will come across ideas that you disagree with. But here is the fascinating part of the conversation. As you pursue the new information, as you seek new friendships, as you allow people to come into your life and pour into you, you automatically start pouring into other people. And at that moment, the focus moves away from you, and therefore you're no longer solipsistic and looking at yourself and your pleasure and how you're disenfranchised and how you were suffering, and you start to think of something other than self. You cannot worship self as a god. As a matter of fact, people who suffer from depression, not all, some who suffer from depression by virtue of the fact that all they think about is self. What do people think about me? How do I feel? What did this make me think? It's always me, 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 and me. And by finding a faith-based community, whatever that faith might be, it allows you to be amongst other people. But more importantly, it allows for the opportunity for you not to rob others of the joy of giving and pouring into you. And as part of that process, you develop friendship, the ability to share your emotions and how you feel, and the opportunity for growth, for personal development, and for progress. So as I end today's session, and also this week, I would say as follows. The quality of your life depends on the quality of the questions you ask. There are several questions to life, and there are several questions that we should ask repeatedly as we live. Who am I? Who am I deals with identity, self-image, which is at the root cause of depression. Why am I here? That question deals with the question of purpose and reason and substance and what is my task? And even if I'm suffering by virtue of a physical illness or an emotional issue, is that part of my duty? We then go to the question about potentiality. What can I do? And that connects with what I covered before, which is duty. Do I have a duty to myself? Do I have a duty to the family? Do I have a duty to the community or the country? And then the question about what happens after this life. Who knows? We're all speculating. But what happens? What are the possibilities? Is there a life after life? Or is there a life after death? Where am I going? What's the next page to be turned? And all of these questions start to enrich and allow you to think of life not in this narrow way that most people do. You see, depression is simply a vibration, it's a resonance, it's a frequency, it's an energy. You cannot get rid of depression. Just in the same way you cannot get rid of poverty or wealth. That's a resonance, it's an energy, it's a vibration, it's a frequency. You can tune into that frequency and you can attract through the law of expectation. Using the law of vibration and its principles, you can attract whatever is in that frequency. Abundance, love, kindness, and depression. The fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, godliness or goodness, gentleness, self-control, those are all frequencies. The Spirit resonates with all of those frequencies at the same time. If you want to have a good life, if you want to have an abundant life, you have to learn how to look up, tune upwards into a higher and a better vibration or frequency. You can move towards a thought. You can move away from a thought. You can't stay with the thought. Those who suffer from depression are constantly circulating and moving between one form of depression and one idea and another. And all I'm saying in today's session as I end this week is you need hope, you need faith, you need love. And that love starts with self. You know, the great writer says, you know, there's faith, there's hope, there's love. And the greatest of all of those is always love. And that love requires you saying, you know what? I may not be adequate, I might be flawed, I may have done awful things, I may have done negative things, I'm ashamed of myself. But I can still love myself. I can still extend some grace to myself to allow me to look past all of the wrong things that I have done, or all of the wrong things that were done to me or done for me, and find hope. Now, I hope this session and this week has been of some value.